Welcome everybody to The Live Advisor, our podcast and video show about how to grow sales, grow revenue, and of course how to do all that with AI. Today I have a very, very special guest, Brent Keltner, who is the president of Winalytics, a firm that is one of the real experts in value-led selling and just helping companies to drive their sales and their business higher and higher. And they're doing a lot of that with AI. Welcome, Brent, to the show.
Ed, thrilled to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Now, you wrote the book on value-led selling. I think it was called The Revenue Acceleration Playbook. You have spent years teaching sales team a methodology that really, really works. What is the biggest problem with sales methodology today? The part that does not show up in your experience?
Yeah, I think single biggest problem, it's a great question, is sales methodologies teach probably 24 skills, and the only skill that really matters is very good buyer discovery, right? Very good buyer discovery, and then multi-threading that discovery. Whoever you're talking to, who else are you thinking about this with? And what would they say if they're listening to the conversation? So if you get really good at that, like, what are you trying to solve for? What's working? What's not working? How about the other people you're going to decide with? Recapping that, man, you'll be ahead of 80 or 90% of sales teams.
When we're talking about discovery, what are some of the challenges that salespeople have in your experience? What separates the great discoverers from the not so great?
The single thing is the great people do the great discovery. They're not thinking about their product. They're thinking about the buyer and the buyer's problem. Because I don't have to know anything about your product to just say, hey, what are you working on today? What's keeping you up at night, right? Simple consultative questions. But then the next level is, and tell me, what have you tried around that problem? What's working and what's not working? What's the one thing that if we could solve it together would be a big win for you? What would it be worth to solve that? I don't have to know anything about your product for you to guide me to exactly what your pain is, what you will prioritize, what it's worth to solve that together, and just feeling conversational around that. That's the biggest. I got to get you to a payoff that's worth doing something different and paying for the privilege to do it. My product won't do that.
So you probably tell that to everyone, and a lot of people have read your book. Why do you think it's so hard to actually do it in the discovery meeting? Why do you think so many salespeople struggle to do it at the moment of truth?
Yeah, I mean, two things, right? Is one, people don't practice enough. Because to do this, to shift your mind from it's about me and my product, which we're wired, we feel better when we talk about ourselves. We know our product. And
that's true with me anyway.
Everybody, it's our brain. We're wired for confirmation bias, which means we're not truth seekers. We go in with a point of view. And in sales, that means you go in with a point of view looking for evidence that people want to buy your product. So I'm wired to product pitch. If you don't practice and practice and practice, you will product pitch. I mean, one of the things that was very attractive about thinking of entering into a partnership with Scoot is this idea that you can, through the Live Advisor, give in-deal coaching where you break that pattern, right? People can get prompted to, hey, stop, ask a question, ask this follow-on question. So it can guide people to shift the behavior that otherwise takes a lot of repetitive practice to build the muscle.
It does. The Live Advisor has told me sometimes, stop talking, which is funny, because I'm like, oh, here's the computer telling me to listen more. 2 ears, 1 mouth, that old thing.
Telling its creator to listen more.
Yeah, exactly. The machines are taking over. So sales leaders, they have, CRM, dashboards, enablement, content libraries. They've got all this. But what changes for go-to-market when there's a central intelligence platform or a brain that sort of sits under, and we're going to get into what Winalytics is doing with AI agents and with your clients here. But how do things change when there is a central intelligence platform sitting underneath this activity, powering the meetings and the agents that are doing stuff before and after the meetings?
Yeah, great question. And you know our approach because we've talked about it. We have for a decade been building what we call value prop playbooks, which is basically get all your go-to-market teams, marketing, product marketing, the SDRs that are dialing for dollars, sales is running meetings, account managers, the different account levels, national accounts on the same messaging formula. What are the problems we solve? Who do we solve them for? Who's our ICP? How do we qualify people into that? And we do a great job of building that. And then you build individual playbooks. And once you're aligned, guess what happens? You start to misalign, right?
Yeah.
Everybody develops their own version of the playbook. Team huddles and sales is doing different than team huddles and marketing. So now the value of a brain is you have a digital platform that's being fed and getting smarter that can do a much better job of keeping your frontline teams in alignment.
Yeah, you guys have always had that intelligence. It's just been a sort of body of work that gets used to train the salespeople or to be a reference for them, collateral, and so on. And when you digitize that, not only can you have agents give advice against that for salespeople, you can also use it for all kinds of other agents. So why don't we talk about that now? Like Winalytics has really grown your practice from just what you described, sort of, creating this body of knowledge and implementing value-based selling, throughout the organization, which includes the marketing side. What has you most excited about the AI agents that you're building for your customers?
Yeah, I mean, the single most exciting thing, I think you and I have talked about this, is it's like there's the opportunity now for highly intelligent RevOps, right? That can fluidly connect all these systems that used to be hardwired together to now actually, AI is great at synthesizing data and connecting data and coming up with patterns. And so now as you think about, when we're starting to experiment at different points of the buyer journey, is it, just the positioning around engagement? So positioning agents or ICP agents, who's engaging, or warm bounding agents, or I know one of the things we've talked about is proposal agents, where there are disparate systems of information that often arrive at different times. It's really the ability to put together multiple streams of information that now have to be done in almost a manual way. That creates a much more powerful personalized experience, because you now are creating personalization in real time by bringing together streams of data to do a marketing, as talked about for years, which is the right message to the right buyer at the right time. Now it's a reality. Once upon a time, it was a slogan.
Yeah, well, now there's, a lot of companies just don't have the resources to have like 17 different platforms and integrate them all and get them all talking to each other. So when we put a single kind of go-to-market brain and then you deploy agents against those, like the kind that you're deploying for your clients, it just gives them the ability to do so much more with the same size team. Is that what you're finding, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, early days, but I think directionally, yes, the idea that, and particularly for marketing and SDRs, the idea that you can do the same volume of activity personalized with probably a fraction of the existing staff, you're starting to see that become a reality. Because now a smart AI agent can write content sequences, write connected content. It can write your ABM sequences and embed the content in there. It can identify your ICPs and build a list. So the smart humans are figuring out how to run agents and really tune agents, because it's just gonna lead to massive efficiency gains.
So as you say, it's early days for a lot of companies. It's early days in putting these things to work. When you're talking to CROs about like a platform that's going to hold the brain for their sales organization, what do they push back on? What kinds of concerns do they have?
Yeah, I think newness to salespeople, not wanting to disrupt the flow of the salespeople. Is this live advisor going to be distracting for them? Do I have to build new behaviors? Because for a sales leader, I mean, that means I'm disrupting my this quarter and next quarter, right? And it's all about hitting your quarterly numbers. So I think that's the biggest objection, like that it will require new behaviors on my team, and that's distracting if they're trying to run their pipelines.
Yeah, it's imperative that that advisor just be like as unobtrusive as needed, but there when the salesperson's sort of stuck. I had one rep who was using the Live Advisor, and they would just type in, I'm stuck. What do I do? And that's kind of an interesting thing to have a salesperson say to the Live Advisor in the middle of a meeting with a client. So we allow them to ask questions against the AI, but also ignore it if things are going well. They don't have to pay attention to it. So Winalytics, you have your pick of platforms and companies to partner with. Why did you decide to partner with Scoot instead of trying something that might bolt on to Zoom or Teams or other agentic partners that you might have gone with?
Yeah, I think honestly, it's two things. One is that focus on the go-to-market brain, because AI on its own, our early experimentation with prompting, we've done a lot of content development, sequence development, positioning. On its own, it's a B minus, right? I mean, it does some interesting stuff and a lot of bad stuff. It hallucinates or just gets stuff wrong. So this idea that you are now powering from one place that you can manage for variance around a brain is very attractive, as opposed to everybody trying to put out fires in their individual agents. That's really attractive. And I think the other thing that is just the way you guys basically create an environment in N8N where teams can get smarter about their own agent development. So it's not like, hey, let us just go run off and do this for you, because then you're not really learning anything about agents. It's the ability to have that brain that trues everything up uniformly. And then everybody's going to have unique needs. So the ability to experiment with agents is really important to figure out those unique needs.
So what does a year look like? Like a year from now, 2 years from now. What does that look like to you when your clients are running on this brain and they're running agents? How do you envision the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, it is that you can get to, a level of marketing personalization in the buyer journey. And a lot of our work is about thinking about a multi-stakeholder buyer journey.
Right.
This idea of discovery is connected. So you've got to sell to multiple buyers on the buying committee at once. To be able to do that at scale in an effective way, but probably with 30% less staff.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it's creating your versions by persona, it's creating your sequences, creating your content. So big efficiency gains, and I think that's going to cascade into the SDRs, where some very, very talented SDRs, but a lot of just intent response, right? Things where in more accurate targeting. Less on the SDR team. So I think you're going to get the personalization at scale at a much lower cost with lower headcount.
For sure.
Is what I think what we're hearing people respond to. Don't want to have to hire a full-time person for that, hire a full-time person for that. This could be a substitute that brings together a lot of different skill sets.
Cool. So, for a sales leader watching this or listening to this right now who's curious about AI and sales, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that they know the stat that something like 67% of buyers say they want a sales-free experience, that I want to engage with salespeople. Something like 13% of executives say salespeople add value in a conversation, right? So the disengage, as buyers have gotten, they drive their own journeys, they consume a lot of content, they're very well educated, sales ain't keeping up. And it's creating this gap of dissatisfaction with salespeople. So this is an edge to actually bring personalization directly into your meetings to make sure that your team are the first to add value.
Cool. Well, before we go, I wanted to make sure that we mention an exciting development on your side. So if I'm not mistaken, didn't you just release a new book?
But yes, thank you for mentioning that. Journey first marketing, which is our whole method about you have to put your buyer first and you have to do it in a multi-threaded way.
So tell us a little bit about this book.
Yeah, so it's really about the evolution. I mean, marketing last 10 decades has been focused on personas, thinking about individual buyers and thinking about MQLs. If I generate enough MQLs, they've got to convert through my sales pipeline. Well, that turns out marketing spend went from 5 to 9.5% of revenue. On this thesis, I just got to get more MQLs and we'll get more revenue. Failed spectacularly, right? Double revenue marketing spend, conversion stats flatlined because folks were focused on the persona and pitching their product. And the whole book is how do you move to account-based value props, selling from the beginning, your website, the website organization, your content, your demand gen campaigns, all focused on building a multi-threaded buyer journey and then targeting in-market accounts. Who's actually raising their hand to say, yes, I'm looking for a product, I'm looking for a product substitute. So you can now start to optimize around your buying committee that are showing some intent. That's what the book is about.
Cool. Well, we're all very excited about it. So congratulations, that's your second book. I've only written one book, so I have to write another one to catch up with you. But I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on the Live Advisor today. It's been a great conversation, and we are so excited about the partnership with you guys. Really, really looking forward to helping all these companies use AI to produce more revenue with 30% less staff or whatever it may be. So thanks again for coming on today.
Yeah, no, enjoy the conversation, Ed. Thanks for having me.
Okay.